Welcome back to the third part of the show. We're still talking about election offenses on the day of the election. So be aware, vote buying and vote selling might land you in jail. And we have tonight in our show representatives from the Legal Network for Truthful Elections, where the newest or the latest COMELEC commissioner came from. So welcome back to the show, Chai and Robbie. Okay, we're talking about election offenses on election day. We're just talking about vote buying, vote selling. You said it's very rampant. It's probably the top election offense on election day. Curious lang ako, you were saying na bawal to give a ride. It's prohibited to give a ride to voters or sponsors during election day. But is there a specific case, for example, sa indigenous peoples? I heard that's a very common scenario to transport them to and from the polling precinct on election day. So, but they live in the mountains. So, how do we expect them to vote? I mean, how can we stop, di ba sa mga mangyans, usually they get transported from their residence and then they are transported to the polling precinct on the day of the elections. Then they are, unless they vote for that candidate who gave them a ride, they will not be returned to their residence. They will not be returned. Oh, it really, well, it saddens me as well. Pero, I mean, how do you prevent that? Is that possible to conduct elections where the indigenous peoples are, for example? Or what do you think, yeah, Robbie?
I think kasi Lente already asked COMELEC if we can provide really prisons to reach indigenous people. I think it was this year, or last year, that they proposed that to COMELEC. However, COMELEC said that it would really be more of a logistical problem kasi it's really far and we can really expect na, for instance, if we provide a voting poll center to Mangyans, I think it should be proper to also provide for other indigenous
para it's fair.
Yes.
So it cannot be a special provision
yes,
for the
for
Mangyan
them
people.
lang. So, yes, of course, we hope that we can push for that electoral reform, but as of now, we can't expect COMELEC to really
To provide for
prioritize
that.
that.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back to the other election offenses that are committed on election day. So, Chai, what are the other offenses?
Unlawful preparation of ballots. So what happens here is the PWDs are given assistance. So there's another person to assist them to prepare their ballots. So who's allowed to assist? That's the member of a BEI, a relative within the fourth consanguinity, and then a member of a household with trust and confidence. They're the only 3 people who's allowed. And there's a limit in the relative and the member of the household. 3 times na sila pwedeng mag-assist to a PWD, and that's aggregate. So meaning if they already assisted in another precinct, that's already counted as 1 sa tatlo. And then, so what happens here, there are 2 modes. One is that you're not really a PWD, you're just acting out as a PWD.
Okay, PWD meaning person with disability. Okay.
The second is if the person assisting that, the person with disability, and he knows that he's not really a PWD, so he's also punished for that. That's it.
He can also go to jail for pretending to be disabled. Pero why would people want to, what's the offense called again? Unlawful preparation of ballot. So, you have a scenario where there's a person with disability and kumbaga, physically he cannot, mark the ballot, etc. So, you need somebody to assist him. But as you said, ang qualified lang, number 1, it has to be, a member of the Board of Election Inspectors. But he can only also assist 3 times.
No,
that's for
the other 2.
Okay, that's for the other 2. So, member of the BEI, who else can assist?
Member of the household with trust and confidence.
Member of the household, of the voter, of the PWD na voter, and then the relative within 4th degree of consanguinity. And this relative and the member of the household can only help assist the PWD twice during, thrice, 3 times. So, he can only assist 3 persons with disabilities. That's what you're saying. Okay, so bakit magkakaroon ng unlawful preparation of ballots? I mean, what is the law safeguarding against somebody who's messing around with another person's ballot?
Kasi ang nangyayari dyan, there's vote buying. So kung bibili niya yung boto, if I am the candidate buying for the vote, how can I make sure that you're really voting for me?
Yes.
So ang ginagawa nila, yung other person assisting is gonna write the name of the candidate sa ballot. So, if that's me, that's Shai. He's gonna write Shai. So, that's it. He can make sure that that the person also voted for me, really voted for me.
That's a guarantee. That's a way to guarantee that the person whose vote you bought actually voted for you. Kasi kanina we were saying, what if a voter decides to accept the money but does not vote for the candidate who gave the money? And this is an assurance. So that's why the law prohibits and punishes the unlawful preparation of ballots. But does this apply to, for example, illiterate persons, and not just persons with disabilities?
For illiterates, kasi once you are an illiterate kasi, you should be registered or parang the list is marked that you are an illiterate. That's for the BEIs and for the COMELEC to check. Unlike sa PWDs, kasi you may acquire the disability. Unlike for the illiterates that you should be registered. The check that COMELEC normally does for the illiterates is that they are already registered as an illiterate. But the same thing goes with them, that the same assistors as mentioned by Chai, and that the same limit should be applied.
Okay, so assisting applies to both illiterate voters and persons with disabilities. So if you prepare the ballots of these people and you are neither of the three, or you are one of the three but you exceeded the 3 times the limit, then you can be thrown to jail. thrown in
And
jail.
you know
It's
that
an
he's not a person with disability.
Yeah, because as you said, no, yung disability can be acquired shortly before elections, or it can also be fake the way, well, you know, dead voters apparently come to life during elections. So it's really hilarious. So, I mean, we have 110%, 200% voter turnout probably because of these antics. Pero they still exist, they still happen, as you would know from the deployment. You two just came
And
from...
it's also rampant because they're reverting to old school tactics.
Yes, and it will be hard because when we reverted to automated elections in 2010, yun yung fear ng mga candidates. How do you know that your supporters will vote you inside the polling precinct? Kasi automated na eh. Unlike before, you can assist them and make sure that you can watch over their shoulder as they write your name. Now, it's the machine counting the votes. So, how do you ensure that you still get voted?
And there are also instances na parang sa polling place, when they're voting, they bring their ballot, they show it sa window so that they can
Check whether or not
Also,
they voted.
you mean that really long ballot, they didn't
Yes.
display it? Pero is that allowed? That's not an
that's
offense.
not allowed.
It's
not
allowed. It's allowed. It's allowed, no?
It's allowed.
That's not allowed.
That's
It's
not allowed
Kasi we
also.
have the
Okay.
secrecy of vote.
Secrecy.
Okay. So, and that's also, is that also punishable if you flash your ballot?
I think the BEI should control that already.
Okay.
Kasi it's either the voting area has folders or you're given a folder. With that, kailangan talagang itago yung balota. And basically, you can't really talk within the precinct. Bawal mag-usap sa loob ng presinto. And maximum of 10 voters lang
Per precinct.
per precinct.
Inside the classroom.
Yes, the BEI should check that. Kasi medyo...
Yeah, and just to make it more understandable, unlawful preparation of ballots and you flash it to someone else, that
It's the
violates the
same thing.
secrecy of the ballot as well. And both of you are committing an offense.
Yes.
Diba? The one flashing or, you know,
I'm
showing
wondering
it.
how he acts it out, actually.
Okay, it's really hard kasi I've heard about that in the 2010 elections among fellow lawyers who are also working for candidates. How do you ensure that, for example, you invested in a vote or you supported, or this is a particular supporter of your candidate, tapos how do you know that they voted you? But then again, that's not our concern kasi Lente is apolitical, so it doesn't really take a political stand. So what else, Chai, are the election offenses that were committed during election day?
We have undue influence.
Undue influence.
Basically, it's also trying to get the voter vote for you, but it's not. It's through enticing them through the use of probably your power. For example, the barangay captain would say na vote for this to his constituents. Vote for this guy kasi he promised us that the major funds or the taxes will be poured down to our barangay. Or for instance, we had this, hindi sila barangay captains, but in their specific barangays, there are leaders. They call them leaders. And then they dictate the vote. Or for instance, the mayor candidate would go to the lolo, the pinakamatanda sa pamilya, and they will dictate, vote for me, and then the lolo would now pursue that mayor. So, undue influence, it is a violation basically because it violates the sacredness of the vote.
Mhm.
It removes the personality that the voter has and the right, the human right that is with
Yeah, you can freely
voting.
choose
Yes.
whoever you want to vote. Yeah. So how about during election day, policemen are not allowed inside the precinct as well. So where should they be on election day? So how
Election
far?
day,
Yeah.
50 meters, they're not allowed within 50 meters from the classroom.
50 meters. So if they're, when can they approach the classroom or
There
the
are
polling
the
precinct?
instances when they're voting, they're being called by the BEI,
Mhm.
and the other one is
When there's already a rampant chaos. Kasi
Mhm.
syempre, it's their job eh.
Mhm.
Kapag may nagkagulo na, we can't expect them to not be there.
Mhm.
But right after it's pacified, and right, or if ever they have voted na, they are expected to leave at once.
Mhm. Okay. So the police are expected to be 50 meters away from the
the
polling
precinct.
precinct. So if they are closer than that 50-meter
meters.
radius, then that's already a violation on the part of the police, unless they're being called by the BEI to come and help them. There's already chaos.
So that's the police, the military,
The military.
barangay captain, and peace officers.
So any law enforcer basically
Yes.
has to keep distance unless they're voting, or they have to answer to the call of duty, which is to restore peace and order inside the
They have to.
precinct. Oh, kasi alam mo, there's chaos and then there's still fire. Diba? So doesn't make sense. Okay, so that's very good. Okay, let's talk about your deployment. You just came from Cebu and
Cebu and
Dumaguete.
Dumaguete.
Were you taught also law students or
Yes.
college students
Lost
about election offenses, which is
Yes.
Lentes advocacy. So, you as volunteers, ano usually yung reception ng mga students when you teach them that these are actually violations, etc. So, how do they receive the education that Lente gives them?
Actually, since it's our first time, it's our first week to be deployed, we have different audiences kasi, so it's really overwhelming for
Difficult.
us. First, we have some from Bacolod. They're college students, but the closest thing that we have with law is probably criminology, the course. They're very receptive, and they were very enthusiastic when it comes to election offense. Para silang, ay, hindi, nangyayari sa amin to. They're
They
giving
can
their own
identify,
example,
oo.
yes. Despite probably some language difficulty, language barrier, parang we have this one common thing that there is really a violation offense happening in the city. For other law schools naman, basically, sometimes they already know eh. Since we already had election law or administrative law, they can already identify with the technicality. But what they're after is really, how are we going to enforce them? Parang they're
That's a very good question.
parang especially when it comes to security measures, since we're all just students, or sometimes they would tell us what would happen. Yes, we know how to write an affidavit, we know how to submit it, but what result can we expect? So, with the following deployments, we can say that it's already starting not just awareness, but the empowerment that we need from the youth. Kasi more often than not, we have first-time voters or we have second-time voters. And instilling to them that the nature of the vote is really sacred, I think that's something that they could bring 2-3 elections from now, and
Yeah,
I think
that's
that would
very
really help.
Which universities did you come from just this weekend?
Siliman University.
We had
Siliman,
already
okay.
chapter
And
with
then
Siliman University,
UNESCO.
the Negros Occident.
Okay, that's in Negros Occidental.
Yes.
Okay, so 2 universities this weekend.
So parang yung training kasi that we do is parang based on the audience. So if it's college students, karamihan kasi sa kanila, they don't know how the day of the election, the process. So we have to do a simulation. It's really fun. To tell them what's gonna happen, what are the offenses, ano yung mga kaya bawal gawin.
You also have a fake PCOS machine
Yes.
simulating for
Then
the
we have
simulated
another,
vote.
it's a community, so different naman yung approach namin, and
Okay.
more on what's really happening because rampant yung vote buying, vote selling, yung mga year-end bigas. And then we have the law students. With law students, it's easier, I guess, because sanay sila with the technicalities that other people find boring. So, yes.
Yeah, but that's very good. How about the Lente volunteers that you said you just started the chapter in Siliman University? What do you expect your volunteers to do on election day? will they also be monitoring election offenses or
Basically kasi, what we expect from our volunteers, especially those who has formed new chapters, they should be having volunteers per municipality. And then they will be given their kits. The kits would include a checklist. And that checklist naman, from us and from COMELEC, will be used to monitor the whole day of the election.
the whole day?
And then, I think there are going to be 3 different hours wherein they will send their reports to the central, to the national secretariat. And then we are going to have press releases. We're going to have media releases on what's happening on the ground.
Bulletins.
Yes.
All right.
So, basically, it would localize. It would localize the offense. It would localize what's happening. And then, I think COMELEC and probably other media networks would
Would also
really...
be your partners
Yes, would already be our
during elections. All right. Thank you very much, Robbie and Chai, for joining us right here on GNN. Please tune in again for another episode on election offenses next week, right here on Talk to Harry. My name is Sarah Sugitan. Thank you for joining us in this program.
You are what you watch.